the alarming and disproportionate rate at which Black, Latino, and indigenous families are contracting and dying of COVID-19. That is the reality of America right now. A reality completely absent from this week's Republican National Convention. Because unlike the Democratic Convention, which was very clear-eyed about the challenges we are facing and how we will tackle them, the Republican Convention is designed for one purpose: to soothe Donald Trump's ego, to make him feel good. But here's the thing. He's the President of the United States. And it's not supposed to be about him. It's supposed to be about the health and the safety and the well-being of the American people. And on that measure, Donald Trump has failed. You see, at its most basic level, Donald Trump doesn't understand the presidency. He thinks it's all about him. Well, it's not. It's about you. It's about all of us, the people. Instead of rising to meet the most difficult moment of his presidency, Donald Trump froze. He was scared, and he was petty and vindictive. On a call with governors across the country on March 16th, he told them it wasn't his job to get personal protective equipment to frontline workers. He said, quote, respirators, ventilators, all of the equipment, try getting it yourselves, unquote. On that day, we had about 5,000 cases as a nation. Today, we have nearly 6 million. Even now, some 8 months into this crisis, Donald Trump still won't take responsibility. He still won't act. And the tragedy in all of this is it didn't have to be this bad. Just look around. It's not like this in the rest of the world. All we needed, guys, all we needed was a competent president. One who was willing to listen, willing to lead, take responsibility, have a plan, do their job. And we all know he's not changing. The president he has been is the president he will be.
It took Kamala Harris less than 5 minutes to completely dismantle the glossy sheen that Trump is trying to sell you at the Republican National Convention. And that is because his entire goal with the RNC is to pretend that the elephant in the room, the pandemic sweeping across this country that's already killed 180,000 Americans, doesn't exist. He is literally trying to rewrite history as that history is happening. Bear in mind, this is a president who traffics solely in gaslighting, but holding a 4-day event with barely a mention of the principal issue facing the American people right now shows that there's truly no length that Trump won't go to try and convince you that the virus doesn't exist. And yet in doing so, he proves exactly why he will never solve it. How do you expect the virus to go away when the president won't even acknowledge that it's real? Forget coordinating a nationwide testing and contact tracing system and producing enough PPE and advocating for a stay-at-home order and issuing a nationwide mask mandate. He isn't even willing to accept the fact that the virus is a problem. And this is the same issue we've had since day one. The simple fact is that Donald Trump has never treated this pandemic seriously because he's always viewed it as politically inconvenient for him. And so when he should have been taking swift action, he dug in his heels and told 350 million people that cases were on their way down to zero and that it would miraculously disappear with the heat. And so instead of doing what leaders in South Korea and Germany and Canada and New Zealand did and take quick action and do the work necessary to contain the virus, Trump tried to protect himself and his own re-election by selling the American people a rosy picture. And now, while those same countries, South Korea, Germany, Canada, and New Zealand, are opening back up and sending kids to school and dealing with only a few cases per day, the United States is mired in an unmanageable crisis and has become the epicenter of the world. All because one man couldn't not think only about himself. And that is the fundamental difference between Trump and the Biden-Harris ticket. Donald Trump views the presidency in terms of how it can help him, as opposed to how he could help us. But that's not what the job is. The job isn't to make him more famous or enrich him and his family, or supply cushy jobs to his donors, or to coddle dictators because they appeal to his ego. The job is to help this country. And Trump has shown, in no uncertain terms, that he is physically incapable of doing that. We have to be able to acknowledge first and foremost that nothing will change while Donald Trump is president, because he's not willing to acknowledge that any of our issues exist. He won't fix the virus because he's not willing to admit how dangerous it is or that it's still spreading. He won't fix the economy because he won't look beyond the S&P 500, as opposed to the fact that 10% of Americans are unemployed. He won't reduce the violence because he'd rather fan the flames of division than acknowledge systemic racism even exists. Nothing will get better under Trump because he is not capable of even acknowledging any of the underlying issues. And by the way, he never will. If he hasn't grown into the job now, with 180,000 Americans lost to this virus, with an economy in shambles, with unemployment hitting record levels, with historic civil rights demonstrations across the country, then he never will. He's had more than enough of an opportunity to be a president for all people. And the only thing he's shown is that he's only capable of acting in the best interest of one person and one person only, himself. While you're here, please subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deeper dive into the week's biggest stories and interview major players in the world of politics, like Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker, Eric Swalwell, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.